By completing this tutorial, you'll have essential skills to make a AAA quality hard surface models for games from 3D scans. You can download Blender files for every lesson from the link in the description. So if you get stuck or just want to skip, you can continue right to the end of any chapter. Let's download an old oil lamp from Sketchfab. The link for the file will be in the description. Let's unpack the files. Let's set the unit scale to 0.01 and length units to centimeters. Height of the lantern is about 31 centimeter. Let's import the downloaded lantern. In the right view, we can adjust the height of the lamp to the default cube's height. In top view, let's align handles to y-axis. Go to the edit mode, activate X-ray and select the ring at the top. Activate proportional editing and choose linear fall-off type. You can adjust the area of influence of proportional editing with the mouse wheel. Rotate while constraining along the z-axis. Let's say goodbye to the default cube. Go to the material properties. In the viewport display, reduce alpha value so that the lantern remains semi-transparent. Make it unselectable. Let's make a cylinder and reduce its radius and depth to make the base of the lantern. Enter edit mode by pressing tab. Raise the bottom of the cylinder along the z-axis. Lower the upper part of the cylinder in z-axis. Scale the top a little bit. Extrude and then scale again. Start blocking the lantern by typing E for extrude, S for scale, I for inset, and G for grab and glide. Inset attach. Duplicate the lower part of the cylinder and extrude the base for the glass globe. Let's continue to extrude, scale, inset and glide. Similarly, let's duplicate the bottom part of the base to extrude the top of the lantern. Here, after selecting the side panels, press Shift-Z to scale along both X and Y axes simultaneously. Let's rename the imported mesh and what we've done already. Make a Bezier curve and reduce its radius. Rotate it on the Y-axis, 90 degrees. Let's make a glass globe out of a Bezier curve. Shape the curve by moving vertices and their handles. Press E for extend the curve. Let's extend the bottom part as well. Once you are satisfied with the shape, apply the screw modifier to the Bezier curve. Now let's duplicate the glass globe so we can recycle its Bezier curve for the side handles. Select two vertices. Right-click and choose Subdivide. Here we can increase the number of vertices between the selected ones. Now select two vertices, press V and choose Vector to make a straight line. Select the opposite handle. Press V and choose Aligned to align the tangent with the vector. Keep adjusting the handles until you are satisfied with the result. Make a circle. Go to Object Data Properties and reduce the circle's resolution to 1 to obtain the rhomb. Select the Bezier of the handle and bevel it with the rhomb. Select the rhomb and go to Edit mode to adjust the thickness of the handle. Lastly, apply a mirror modifier. Let's continue. In Edit mode, select the bottom part and separate it from the rest of the lantern. Make a small sphere so it can fit into this opening. Rotate 90 degrees on the x-axis. In Edit mode, delete half of the sphere. Then half of the half. And half again. Select and delete these faces. Switch to Object mode and apply Mirror modifier to the both X and Z axis. Let's apply Subdivision Surface modifier. Drag the vertices along the edges by pressing G and G again. Get rid of the Subdivision Surface modifier and apply the Mirror modifier. Let's select and join these two objects, and then isolate them from the rest. Let's fill this opening so that it becomes a whole object. Switch to Object Mode, right-click and select Smooth Shading. Let's try the Subdivision Surface modifier. Here some pinching occurs. Let's deal with this issue. In Edit mode, select and dissolve these edges. Connect these opposing vertices. Let's spread these vertices along the edges by pressing double G. Select and delete the unmodified 3/4 of the object. Apply the mirror modifier. Let's detach this part. Now separate this ring. Let's remake it. Let's fill the gap and remove the rest. Now extrude it down and then extrude it out to the sides. We can delete the middle so that the only ring remains. Activate X-ray mode and in the top view delete the right half of the ring. Let's select these three faces and extrude along the Y-axis. Merge these vertices. Move these faces along Y-axis. Throw edge loop cuts here. Let's duplicate the modified half of the ring and rotate it 180 degrees along the Z-axis. Join the two halves and merge the vertices. Let's put edge loop cut here. Merge these vertices. We can safely get rid of these edges. Repeat the previous steps with the other half, or you can delete the half and apply the mirror modifier. Choose any method you like. Let's activate face orientation. Here we need to flip normals of the ring. Now we can safely connect both parts. Select all vertices and merge by distance. Let's loop cut some edges. Select both objects, isolate them and go into edit mode. Select and move the ring down here. Make a couple of loop cuts. The location of this loop cut under the ring is kind of important. Delete these vertices. Fill this gap. Make insets like this and remove the remaining polygon. Now let's model this detail. Select these faces and extrude them. Let's isolate the object we are working on. Select these two edges and chamfer or bevel them. Now select these two edges and bevel. We can control number of segments with the mouse wheel. Let's select these three faces and make two insets. Extrude a little inward and delete the selected faces. Also remove the following faces. In X-ray mode, select and merge these vertices. Same, merge these vertices. Now merge these guys. Move these vertices along the y-axis. Let's apply the subdivision surface modifier. Connect these two vertices to get a better flow. Make cuts here for a sharper corner. Select these edges and bevel to get a sharper corner. In top view, let's select the other half and delete it. Unduplicate and rotate the remaining half 180 degrees. Select both sides and join. In edit mode, select all vertices and merge by distance. Throw in a bunch of edge loop cuts. Here we've made a nice detail of the locking mechanism. Let's give some thickness to this opening. Select border and fill it, then make an inset and extrude along normals. Finally, delete the remaining polygon. Let's rename these guys. Unhide lantern mesh and make it selectable. Select the lantern mesh and go into the edit mode. Select the face in the middle of the fuel cap. Press Shift S, then cursor to selected. Let's reduce grid scale. Add a cylinder with 36 segments, with a radius of 1 and a height of 0.5 centimeter. Let's rename the cylinder. In top view, activate X-ray mode. Reset position in Y-axis. Bring cursor to selected. Rotate the fuel cap in Y-axis. Go into edit mode and scale to match the reference. Switch to local coordinates and change position. Go to object mode and reset Y rotation. Make a duplicate for low poly version and hide it. Select fuel cap and go into edit mode. Select the curved surface and extrude individual faces. Switch to individual origins and scale down along the XY plane. Select these 4 edges and bevel. Check clamp overlap and increase segments to 3. Select all vertices and merge by distance. Select bottom and top bases and inset. Select these faces and inset. Select these edges and bevel with 2 segments. Choose arc for meter outer. Join these vertices. Select these edges and move along edge. Press double G. Select these faces and grow selection. Select invert and delete faces. Add an empty object and rotate 10 degrees. Select the segment and add array modifier. Increase count to 36 and set 0 to factor X. Check object offset and pick empty object. Apply array modifier. Select all vertices and merge by distance. Select bottom and top borders. Scale them up and fill. Make a couple of insets. Select the top polygon and extrude it down. Scale down. Make inset. Extrude up. Scale down. Inset. Inset again. Merge and collapse. Select this edge ring and subdivide. Raise middle of fuel cap with proportional edit tool. Set couple of loop cuts. Select vertices at the bottom and scale down. We'd better redo this edge loop cut. Let's delete empty object. Let's try set the surface modifier. Let's dissolve this edge loop and move down this one for softer transition. Activate X-ray mode. Add a mesh circle with 8 segments. Rotate it 90 degrees in X-axis. Go to edit mode and delete half of the circle. Scale down the remaining half and position it down below. Add a screw modifier. Change axis to Y. Increase screw amount and iterations. Add a weld modifier and increase its distance. Here increase amount of steps to 36. Apply the modifiers. Go to edit mode and fill the openings. Select the fill cap and cancel set the surface modifier for now. Go into edit mode and make inset in the bottom polygon. We can get rid of these edge loop cuts. Go to object mode and add a boolean modifier. Pick circle mesh and select union operator. Apply boolean modifier. Let's delete circle mesh. Activate X-ray mode. Select faces at the top, select more, hide selection. Select all, select last, hide selection. If we try a loop cut here, it doesn't work. Select all vertices and merge by distance. Let's try loop cut again. Still not every face is quad here. It's easy to fix. Zoom in, select both vertices, merge at last. Dissolve redundant vertices. Try loop cut again. Here we have a problem. Now loop cut works. Extend it to the widest, then shrink back. Let's unhide everything. Now let's quickly model low poly version of the fuel cap. Select the fuel cap low and go into edit mode. Scale up in XY plane. Select top polygon and inset. Inset again. Move up. Inset. Move up. Scale up. Inset. Move up. Merge and collapse. Select this edge and scale up. Make a loop cut. Select bottom polygon and scale down. Inset. Extrude. Scale up in XY plane. Unhide the fuel tank. Add a cylinder with 18 segments. Enter a radius of 1 and a height of 3 cm. Go to edit mode and select these edges. Chamfer attach. Select the half and move away. Select these guys and scale up on Y-axis. Select this edge and bevel. Select the top polygon and enlarge it approximately 2x. Go to object mode and rotate 14 degrees in Y-axis. Select the fuel tank and add a boolean modifier. Pick cylinder as a difference operator. Let's rename the cylinder to carver. Select the fuel tank and hide everything else. Go into edit mode and make a couple of loop cuts. Select this edge ring and subdivide it with 4 cuts. Go to object mode. Enable wireframe shading. Let's go into edit mode and add 2 more loop cuts here and here. Back to object mode. Unhide the carver. Select it and go to edit mode. Select all edges and move it down a little on the local Z-axis. Let's select these edges and move up a touch. Now select these edges and move them in local X-axis. Let's select this edge and move a little back on X-axis. Now move these edges up until this loop cut is visible. In object mode, select the fuel tank, hide the carver and apply the boolean modifier. Switch to edit mode and start working with the redundant vertices. Merge at last. Join. Dissolve. Get out of X-ray mode. The polygon is missing. Let's select the edge border and fill it. Select and join these vertices. Select these faces and inset. Do the same with these two faces. Again, let's deal with the extra vertices. Enable solid shading. Go to object mode, shade smooth. Let's try sub-surface modifier. Not bad. Go to edit mode. Make a cut with the knife tool. Dissolve this edge. And this one. This edge. And this one too. We can't just mirror because we rotated the top ring in the second part of this tutorial series. Detach the top ring. Select right half and delete. Add a mirror modifier. Choose Y-axis. Try sub-surface modifier. Apply mirror modifier and cancel sub-surface modifier. Reattach the top ring and merge by distance. Let's try madcap shading. Let's join these guys. Dissolve these edges. Let's connect the vertices in this way. In hard surface modeling, we don't need to worry too much about quads. Insert these polygons, then merge and collapse. Merge at last. Cancel sub-surface modifier. Unhide low poly version of the fuel cap. Rotate it 14 degrees in Y-axis. Add a boolean modifier and pick the fuel tank as the difference operator. If the cut didn't work properly, rotate it 10 degrees in the local Z-axis. Let's freeze or reset rotation. Unhide the fuel cap and repeat the process. Here boolean difference cut worked as expected. Let's uncheck face orientation. Let's try sub-surface modifier. Nice. Let's continue. Let's revert viewport shading to studio and enable face orientation. Let's quickly mock up a regulator. Unhide scanned mesh, select it and go into edit mode. Select a vertex approximately in the middle of the regulator mesh and bring cursor to selected. Add a cylinder. This is a temporary model, so let's not spend too much time on it. Go to edit mode. Inset. Extrude. Let's rename. Hide scanned mesh. Rotate the regulator towards the center. Let's make it smaller. Unhide lamp. Switch to edit mode. Select and separate air intake. If you look at the photo references, the shape of the air intake is quite different from what we've blocked. In the edit mode, select this edge ring. Select invert and delete. Fill the opening and inset. Select this edge ring and subdivide it with 4 cuts. Select these faces and inset. Make a circle with loop tools. You can activate it in add-ons. Select this strip. Invert selection and delete. Delete these faces as well. Deactivate X-ray mode. Flip normals. Add an empty object. Rotate 22.5 degrees on the Z-axis. Select the segment and add an array modifier. Increase count to 16 and set factor X to 0. Check object offset and pick the empty object from the drop-down list. Apply the array modifier. Add a solidify modifier. Increase thickness. Apply the solidify modifier. Select sharp edges. Increase the sharpness angle to deselect unwanted edges, and then bevel. Select this ring and extrude down. Select this ring and lift up. Let's try sub-surface modifier. Lower it down. Let's rename it. Let's also extrude this ring at the bottom. Let's continue. Unhide lamp. Check auto smooth and decrease the angle a little. Activate X-ray mode. select this ring, lower it down and delete the faces. Select this polygon and delete it. Let's close this gap. Select this part and separate it. Let's rename this to Chimney. Hide the lamp. Activate X-ray mode. Select this edge ring and raise it up. Select this edge ring and dissolve. Let's hide the burner and the air intake. Select this ring and detach it. Activate the isolation mode. Select these two faces. Invert selection and delete. Subdivide these edges with 5 cuts. Subdivide these ones with 1 cut. Select these faces and make circle with loop tools. Scale down the circle. Move these edges to the borders by pressing double G. Select and delete the edges at the center. Fill the opening and inset. Extrude. Let's bevel this edge ring. These edges should be closer to the border. We can delete this polygon. Add an array modifier. Increase count to 16 and set factor X to 0. Check object offset and pick the empty object from the drop-down menu. Let's apply the array modifier. Get out of isolation mode. Select both chimney objects and join. In edit mode, merge by distance. In object mode, let's try subsurface modifier. If edges are too sharp, then lower this edge ring. And this one as well. Let's throw a bunch of loop cuts. Unhide the lamp. Select the lamp and go to edit mode. We're gonna model the mobile part of the chimney. Activate X-ray mode and make 3 loop cuts like this. Scale up the middle edge loop until it almost touches the inside of the fixed chimney. Scale and position the edge loop below like this. Move the last loop upward like this. Select these edges and subdivide with 2 cuts. Select these middle faces and detach. Isolate the separated middle piece. We need to increase the amount of geometry so that the curvature of the holes on the bending surface is smoother. Go to edit mode. Select all of the vertical edges and bevel. Increase segments to 2 and check clamp overlap. Merge by distance. We've doubled the number of segments while maintaining the curvature. Deselect these vertices and delete the rest. Select vertical edges and subdivide with 5 cuts. Select these quads and inset. Go to loop tools, expand circle, uncheck flatten and press on the circle button. Inset couple of times, then extrude inward couple of times. Delete selected faces. Go back to object mode and set origin to geometry. Switch to edit mode and select these faces. Invert selection and delete faces. Activate snapping. Select snap to vertex and activate auto merge vertices. Select and move vertices one by one like this. Deactivate snapping. Press double G and move these vertices along the edge. Add a mirror modifier with X and Z axis. Select these vertices. Activate wireframe shading and snapping. When snapping to a vertex, press Shift Z to constrain to XY plane. Now let's apply mirror modifier. Set 3D cursor back to world origin. Set object's origin to 3D cursor. Duplicate, rotate along the Z axis for 45 degrees and press enter. After that, repeat the last action 6 times. Select all parts and join. In edit mode, select all vertices and merge by distance. Let's rename the lamp to mobile, referring to the moving part of the chimney. Select and detach this polygon ring. Isolate the ring and set its origin to geometry. Select edge ring and bevel with 2 segments. Check clamp overlap. Merge by distance. Activate X-ray mode. Select and delete these vertices. Select vertical edges and subdivide with 5 cuts. Select these faces and inset. Go to Loop Tools, expand Circle, uncheck Flatten and press on Circle button. Scale up until this edge. Select these faces, then delete. Select Border and Fill. Select these polygons. Inset, Extrude, delete polygons. Let's move these vertices as follows. Select and delete these vertices. Add a loop cut here. Select these faces, inset, extrude and scale down. Select these faces and delete. Reveal. Activate wireframe shading. Dissolve these edges. Activate Snap to Vertex and Auto Merge Vertices. Merge vertices. Snap these vertices to this kind of roof thing. Merge vertices. Deactivate snapping. Move vertices along the edge by pressing double G. Move these vertices down along the Z-axis. Switch to Object Mode. Add a mirror modifier with X, Y and Z axis. Apply the mirror modifier. Duplicate and rotate 90 degrees in Z-axis. Join these objects, then select all and merge by distance. Activate solid shading. Let's put some edge loop cuts. Select and detach the centerpiece on top. Hide mobile chimney. Let's edit the detached piece. Let's connect vertices like this. Select these faces. Let's have a look at lamp scan. Turn off proportional editing. Scale up along the Y-axis. Scale down along the X-axis. Detach selected quads. Hide the rest. Go to Edit mode. Unhide lamp scan. Extrude. Select these two edges and bevel them with 2 segments. Select these faces and extrude. Select these edges and bevel them with 3 segments. Check clamp overlap. Hide lamp scan. Merge by distance. Select these edges and bevel with 2 segments. Select all and merge by distance. Select these edges and detach. Delete the rest. Select the detached edge loop. In Edit mode, select all edges. Unhide previously hidden object. Activate X-ray mode. Activate snapping and extrude along the Y-axis. Deactivate X-ray mode. Select all and recalculate normals outside. Add a solidify modifier and increase thickness. Set origin to geometry and set cursor to selected. Add a cylinder with 8 segments and about 0.1 cm. Rotate on X-axis 90 degrees. Lower the cylinder a little. Scale down from sides. Freeze transformations. In Edit mode, select this octagon. Activate See-Through mode. Unhide lamp scan. Begin extruding from the base. We only need 1 segment for straight sections. Keep extruding until you touch the vertical axis. Delete selected octagon. Add a mirror modifier. Choose Y-axis. Increase merge distance. Hide lamp scan and unhide mobile. Join round piece with mobile and in Edit mode merge by distance. In X-ray mode, select the top row of vertices and move them up if needed. Fill the opening. We can safely remove these vertices from the ring. Let's fix this. Now it's better. Back to clamp. Let's apply solidify modifier. Let's remove the unnecessary faces from under the clamp to save some texture space. Select sharp edges and increase sharpness angle. Let's bevel. Let's place loop cuts. Finally, let's rename these guys. Now unhide fuel tank, chimney, Bezier circle and Bezier curve 001. Select and put all of the unhidden objects in a collection. Let's put the lamp scan in a different collection of its own. Select the frame and hide its mirror modifier for now. I used to call it handle, but it's more an air duct than a handle. So let me call it frame. Let's reduce number of vertices. To edit curves, let's use curve pen tool. It's much more suitable for the job. Unhide the reference. Loosen this a bit. Okay, not bad. Now let's work on profile. Increase the resolution. Add vertices by holding Ctrl. Now move these vertices like this. Select these vertices and scale. Now select these two and scale even more. Back to frame. Check Z for axis and bisect options in the mirror modifier. Let's continue. Convert frame to mesh. Activate X-ray mode. Go to edit mode. Select and dissolve these edge loops. Move these edge loops slightly away from the chimney. Make cut with a cut tool across all edges like this. Before making a cut, press C to activate the cut through. Select vertices at the end and delete. Let's enable this collection so that when adding new objects they are added inside. Add a mesh circle with 32 vertices and a radius of 1 cm. Then place it here. Rotate it like this. Select chimney and duplicate. Hide original chimney. In edit mode, select and dissolve these edge loops. Cancel sub-D surface modifier. Select the circle and align top view to the active one. Switch to orthographic view. We can roll the view 180 degrees. Select the chimney duplicate and switch to the edit mode. Select all edges and add the circle duplicate to the selection. Go to mesh, then knife project. Invert selection and delete edges. We end up with the geometry projected from the circle, following the bend of the chimney. Select and delete only faces. Activate vertex snapping and auto merge. Merge each redundant vertex with the nearest edge vertex. Select internal edges and delete. Deactivate snapping. Select the edge loop we just made and extrude it a little. Select both parts and join. Go to edit mode. Select and bridge these edge loops. Increase number of cuts. Change interpolation, smoothness and profile factor if needed. Same steps with the lower end. Always incrementally save before deleting something or applying a modifier. We can delete the Bezier circle. Let's rename this guy to frame. Unhide reference mesh and make it selectable. Let's flip it. Freeze transforms. Make the reference unselectable. Select a frame, go to edit mode and put a loop cut here. Select these edges, duplicate and detach. Hide the frame. Select the detached edges and go to edit mode. Extrude. Scale 0 in y-axis to make a straight line. Make a loop cut here and bevel it with 2 segments. Make a loop cut here as well. Select these edges and subdivide them with 3 segments. Now select these edges and subdivide them with 6 segments. Select these faces and press circle in loop tools. Set its radius to about 2 mm. Select these faces and make circles as well. Make cuts like this with the knife tool. Select these faces and delete. Select these edges and extrude along the x-axis. Translate vertices like these to resemble the reference. Slightly rotate and move these edges. Keep adjusting until you are satisfied with the result. Select these edges and bevel. Select these edges and subdivide with 3 segments. Select these faces and make a circle with the same radius as we just did. Let's delete selected faces. Hide the reference and show the frame. Let's add a solidify modifier. Change thickness to 1 mm and offset to 1. Apply the solidify modifier. In edit mode, select sharp edges and increase sharpness angle. Add an edge crease with a factor of 1. Let's add a subsurface modifier. Select and delete these faces at the back. Let's move the lock closer to the frame. Let's rename this detail. Select this edge loop and expand the selection to the middle of the frame. Delete selection. Unhide the reference mesh. Activate X-ray mode. Select these edges and extrude. Now select these edges and subdivide them with 4 cuts. Select these faces, scale them down and make the selection round. Set the radius to about 2 mm and adjust the angle. Remove the faces to make an opening. Select and dissolve these edges. Dissolve these vertices as well. Bring these vertices closer to the opening. Make a cut like this and like this with the knife tool. Hide the reference. Select these faces and delete. Select these edges and extrude. Do the same with these edges. Merge these vertices and these as well. Select these edges and crease them with factor of 1. Do the same with the opening. Add a mirror modifier in Z-axis. Increase merge distance. Activate X-ray mode. Select these vertices and move them like this for a better geometry flow. Let's try subsurface modifier. Not bad. Select the reference and go to edit mode. Select a vertex near the clamp mesh and send cursor to selected. Hide the reference mesh. Activate this collection. Add a mesh circle with 8 segments and radius of 3 mm. Rotate it 90 degrees along the x-axis. Activate X-ray mode. In edit mode, delete this vertex. Move other vertices like this. Select these vertices and bevel with 2 segments and check clamp overlap. Select all and merge by distance. Select the edges and extrude. Select all. Let's check face orientation. Houston, we have a problem. Recalculate normals. Extrude faces along normals. Select all and recalculate normals again. Select sharp edges and increase sharpness slider a bit. Add edge crease with the factor of 1. Let's try a subsurface modifier. Let's center the clamp on the ridge. Let's make this wire shape. Activate X-ray mode. Add a mesh plane. Move it up to clamp hole and kind of center it like this. Go to edit mode and delete this vertex. In the top view, position the vertices to follow the shape of the wire reference. Keep extruding and positioning the vertices. Switch to other views and place the vertices more or less within the reference. Here we need to deviate from the reference slightly, because the wire needs to go through these holes. Now let's work on the end of the wire. Here we need an extra vertex. Okay, cool, let's make the final touches. Before beveling, I strongly recommend you to save your work. Select all and bevel with Ctrl B, then V. Check the clamp overlap and increase the number of segments. Select all and merge by distance. Let's rename this guy to wire. Hide the reference and convert the wire to a curve. Go to the object data properties. Increase the depth to 1.5 mm and fill caps. Let's shade smooth. Let's try subdue surface modifier. Here we have a little problem. Let's select and move these vertices along the x-axis. Let's remodel the temporary sketch of the regulator. Select this face and inset. Separate it from the rest. Select and edit the detached part. Let's reduce number of vertices by means of checker deselect, then dissolve selected vertices. Let's repeat the reduction of vertices. Deselect this one as well and dissolve the rest. Select and delete this vertex. Now select and extrude this one. Go to the top view and center the vertex. Let's activate X-ray mode. Extrude the selected vertex into the burner. Go to the side view, select these vertices and lower them to the center of the regulator. Let's also extrude this vertex. Now select all vertices and bevel. Check clamp overlap and increase number of segments. Delete this vertex. Go to object mode and convert to curve. In object data properties, increase the depth and fill caps. Deactivate X-ray mode. Let's add more depth. Let's check it with subdue surface modifier. Not bad. Let's remove the faces from the bottom of the burner, because we will never see them. This time, let's make a fake hole in the burner. It's a common practice to fake geometry using normal and alpha textures instead of actually modeling something in order to reduce the polygon count. Let's unhide the Bezier curve and rename it glass. Activate X-ray mode. Add a mesh circle of 8 segments and a radius of about 5 cm. Lift the circle and rotate its edges to more or less match the reference. Select these two vertices and bevel. Ctrl B, then V. Bevel this vertex with a wider width. Let's lower these vertices until they touch the air intake. Select these two and scale. If scale doesn't work, change the pivot point to the median point. We need to widen the shape to get round edges. Run the bevel command with enough segments on those vertices. Select all and merge by distance. Switch to object mode and convert the shape to a curve. Increase the depth or thickness of the wire cage. Let's shade auto smooth. Hide the reference. Let's rename circle 001 to cage. Let's duplicate and flip half of the cage. Now if we move these vertices a little, the cage looks better. Let's also activate proportional editing and move these vertices down a little. Breaking the symmetry a little increases realism. Change snap type to edge and activate snapping. Select this edge loop and move it constraining to the x-axis. Press G, then X. Similarly, select this edge loop and move it constraining to the y-axis. Press G, then Y. Do the same with the other side. So this way we can significantly reduce the number of triangles in a model. Let's select and remove this edge loop. Now let's smooth out the sharp edges. Select all these edges and set mean bevel weight to 1. Add a bevel modifier. Reduce amount to 0.2 mm and increase number of segments. Change width type to width and limit method to weight. Now let's add a sub-desurface modifier. Later we'll bake this kind of smoothness to a normal map, thus faking smooth edges in low poly geometry. Let's prepare a high poly model of the lantern for baking its details into a low poly one. Before explaining what was done, I want to show a few more details that are simple yet still add some realism, which were modeled using the methods described in the previous tutorials. In cases like this, I reduced the number of faces and applied mean bevel weights, and added a bevel modifier, so that later to quickly switch to a low poly model by simply cancelling the modifiers. Here I also reduced the number of edges. Here on the contrary, added a couple of edges for smoother flow. In this example, the support loops are needed for the high poly model, but for the low poly model we will remove them. I didn't touch the high poly fuel cap. Almost no changes to the low poly fuel cap. Minor changes to the glass. This part was eased by redirecting a couple of edges. We can easily select certain parts by giving them different mean bevel weights. This edge loop doesn't belong here. Let's change its mean bevel weight. For various wire details, 6 segments across were used. We will dissolve these edges for low poly model. No significant changes were made for the frame. Here again a number of edges was reduced. Here I tried to be consistent with the quads. Not that it's vital on hard surfaces, but still. Let's prepare a low poly model for texturing. As an example, let's prepare this mobile chimney. Select this edge and select similar bevel. Then right-click mouse button and press M to mark seam. Select another edge with a bevel weight. Shift G to select all similar bevel weights. Again, right-click and press M to mark seam. Same procedure here. By the way, let's cancel bevel and sub-desurface modifiers. Keep selecting these edge loops and marking the seams. Let's reduce the amount of geometry at the top. Select edge ring, then checker deselect, and then dissolve edges. Now let's select and collapse the faces in the center. This edge loop also needs to be marked. Let's dissolve these edge loops. Dissolve this one as well, and this one below. Let's mark this edge loop. Now let's mark vertical edge loops. Let's mark this edge of the ring for each hole. Let's mark more seams. I'd also like to mark these edges as seams. We can select and dissolve these edges and merge residual vertices. Let's use another method to remove this upper edge loop. Just lift up while vertex snapping and auto merging are activated. These edge loops are easy to select and dissolve. I also want to mark seams here. And these edges can also have seams. This edge loop for sure needs a seam. In edit mode, select all and unwrap. Let's go to the UV editing tab. Okay, not bad. Now let me show you how I mark the seams on the other parts of the lantern. Let's check all parts together. Select all and unwrap. For managing UVs, we will use free add-ons. Text Tools is a very capable plugin with tons of features. UV Packer, as the name suggests, tightly packs UVs and does its job very well. UV Packer is installed in 2 steps. First, install the add-on in Blender. Next, go to your local user folder. In my case, it's Bahak. If app data folder is missing, go to Options and show hidden folders. Now go to App Data, Roaming, Blender Foundation, Current Version, Scripts, Add-ons, UV Packer. Unzip and then copy UV Packer application file here. Now go to Blender and activate the newly installed add-ons. Let's go to Text Tools and click on the checker map. We have several maps to choose from. Here we can change the texture size. Now let's repack the UVs. As I told you before, UV Packer does a great job and it's free. See how much texture space is wasted with the default unwrap. Let's select these objects and join. Now let's do the same with these objects. We are left with 4 objects, which will be much easier to manage and maybe animate. Let's rename to something shorter. Let's add a suffix low for low poly. By the way, I further reduced the number of geometry. These edges are gone, and this edge loop too. Also, this ridge was lightened a bit. And after all these changes, we can repack with one click of a button. Sorry, in the previous tutorial I had to click on Resize to confirm the change in the texture dimensions. Let's install and activate the UV Squares plugin. Select the arc-shaped UV islands and click to grid by shape. If you get this error, then deactivate UV Sync. Now if we try again, UVs will line up perfectly. Let's select all and repack. Unfortunately, straightening the quads does not always give good results. For example, here we can see some stretching and warping of texture. In this case it works well. For that reason I straighten quads only in the cases when it gives good results. Let's not forget to repack. The bottom part of my lantern is hollow. Let me mark seam and fill it by selecting an edge and holding down the F key. Hover over the fuel tank and press L. Now let's select the vertex of the corresponding UV island and press L. Right click and unwrap. Let's select all here, then here. Right click and unwrap. Select and straighten these UV islands. We can scale down the glasses UV because it's going to be transparent, so it doesn't need much texture space. The bottom part doesn't need much texture either. Uncheck Rescale UV charts if checked, then repack. I decided to remove these holes from the low poly and fake them with an alpha texture, thereby further reducing the amount of geometry. This is how I modified the low poly. In the high poly version, first applied bevel and sub the surface modifiers for each object. Let's delete the low poly version of the fill cap. This high poly surface information will be baked into the low poly model using a normal map texture. These little filled holes will be baked as an alpha texture and will look like they've been cut out. And this ring will serve as a transparency object, as well as this one. This concept of baking textures will become clearer in future tutorials. Now it's time to reduce the number of objects. Let's select and join these objects. Now let's join these guys. Put them all in the same collection and delete empty collections. Let's apply modifiers of the regulator hole if you haven't already, and set it as a child of the frame. Let's also set this transparency ring object as a child of the frame. Set this transparency ring as a child of the mobile. Now we have the same number of objects as in the low poly version. Let's add a suffix high for high poly model. Color IDs will be used to differentiate the parts of the 3D model, so that we can easily select those parts by color when texturing. Select the frame and make a new material. Choose a color, in my case blue. Let's name the material. Now apply the blue material to the mobile. Likewise, select the handle and make a new material. Set a color, for example red, and name it. Now select the lever and set its color to red as well. Select frame and go to edit mode. Select the regulator subobject. Add a new material slot, choose red material and press assign. Select mobile and go to edit mode. Select glass subobject. Add a new material slot. Add a new material and set a green color. Assign it to the glass subobject. Select these two guys, then select this ring, add a new material slot, choose red material and press assign. Select regulator hole object and set its color to blue. Add a new slot, go to edit mode. Select middle part, add a new material and let's set its color to black. Press assign. Select the ring object, make a new material and set its color to yellow. Select another ring object plus previous one. Press Ctrl L and link materials. Unhide all. Select all, batch rename and set suffix to _high. Select these two guys, then select the frame and join them. Likewise, select this ring, then mobile and join. Select all, export the high poly lantern in FBX format. Now let's finish with the low poly. Select mobile, then get rid of the checker material and add a new material. Set any color and give it a name. Select all and press Ctrl L. Choose link materials from the drop-down menu. Let's export the low poly model as FBX. At this point, modeling section is over. Let's texture the lantern using Substance Painter. Start a new project and load the low poly model. Go to Texture Settings and press on Bake Mesh Maps. Press here and load the high poly model. We won't need the thickness map, so let's uncheck it. Go to ID map. In Color Source, choose Mesh ID/Polygroup. In Common Settings, adjust max frontal and rear distance. Bake selected textures. Let's return to painting mode. Let's check ID map. Okay, no problem. In shader settings, choose PBR metal rough with alpha blending. In texture settings, add an opacity channel. Go to layers tab. Let's start with a clean slate. Make a new folder and name it glass. Put a fill layer inside. Right click on folder and add a black mask. Right click on the black mask and add a mask with color selection. Pick glass color ID with the color picker. Let's set up the fill layer. Go to opacity map and find dirt gradient. Let's change base color to black. Make a new folder. Take it out of the glass folder. Name it small holes. Make a fill layer inside. Right click on the folder and add a black mask. Right click on the black mask and add a mask with color selection. With the color picker, select color ID of small holes here and down here. Select the fill layer and bring opacity slider down to 0. Okay, cool. Let's add a smart material. We need to take it out of the folder. In order to texture in Quixel Mixer, first we need to bake a few maps in Blender. Open the high poly model and append the low poly one. In one of the previous tutorials we set a material for the low poly lantern. Now we're going to bake some maps for it. Go to UV Editing tab. We will use free text tools add-on for baking. Link for download is in the description. Select all of the meshes and go to baking. Let's test bake normal map with the default settings. It has baked normals of the first mesh only. Select force single and bake again. Now it has baked all of the normals from high poly. Let's increase texture size to 4K and bake again. Yellow colors means normals are inverted. To fix the yellow normals we need to adjust the catch extrusion and ray distance. I came up with these numbers through trial and error. Let's bake once more. Perfect. Save the normal map. Now select curvature and bake. Save it. Next we need to bake Color ID map, but we'll bake diffuse map for this purpose. It asks for cycles. Enable cycles render engine and GPU compute. If it is grayed out, go to system and enable GPU hardware. Let's bake. Let's increase anti-aliasing. This is needed to smooth out the holes. Bake and save the map. Last but not least is the ambient occlusion map. It is too grainy if you bake it with the default settings. So let's increase anti-aliasing and samples, then bake again. It will take a while depending on specs of your computer. After bake is done, save the AO map. Okay, we are done with the necessary maps. Let's start Quixel Mixer. Change type to custom model and load low poly FBX. Now let's edit materials. Set material type to transparent. Go to texture sets and set maps that we've baked in Blender. Normal map, ambient occlusion map, curvature and diffuse for material ID. Now let's go to layers tab and add a smart material. Add a material ID mask on top of the smart material. Press 8 to see which color corresponds to which part of the model. Press 1 to go back to PBR look. Check blue for lanterns, frame, etc. It already looks cool. Let's try another smart material. For example, old varnished. You can change parameters of smart materials almost like in Substance Painter. Select the same blue color mask. Now let's choose a material for wires. For example, rusted. Select the red color mask. Let me disable displacement. Lastly, let's texture the glass. Add a solid layer. Reveal only glass by masking material ID. Let's make changes to albedo, metalness and roughness maps. Enable opacity map and load a simple gradient texture, which you can download from internet or make your own in an image editor. Final touch will be make the material double-sided. Sure, Substance Painter is much more capable texture editor, but if you want a free alternative, or perhaps you don't like big greedy corporations, you can try Quixel Mixer. See you in another tutorial.